Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm here today with Chris Nicholson to talk about the fourth to last episode of Better Call Saul, Season 6, Episode 10, Nippy. Chris, what did you think?
I thought it was a setup episode, and I know there were a bunch of people who didn't like it. Honestly, I wished for a little more.
Mm.
I wished they had done more, but I'm gonna, I appreciated what was there, and I have a feeling that we're really gonna hit the road with the show in the next episode. This felt like the show was like taking a break, giving
Yeah,
itself a breather
it's
before it charges
introducing.
ahead.
Yeah, it's introducing us to Gene. It's sort of tying up these different kind of threads. So you have that cab driver guy. You have you have all these there was different there was the cab driver guy. There was what else was there? There was like the guy who the security who he told to get on the when he told the guy to get a lawyer. The security guards were there. Um, yeah, it was like felt like it was tying up. I'll tell you what I thought was happening, and so Jimmy, so they're introducing us to Gene. They're setting the Gene's world, and they're still it's the same problem as last week in that there aren't any loose ends. Like this was a self-contained storyline, and then this guy, this guy, I guess I thought the guy was going to die. I thought he fell on his head and he was going to die, and that's how Gene was going to be exposed. So it was going to lead to something, but no, he just gets away. He just gets away and he tells him, don't bother me anymore. And it doesn't seem like this guy, this cab driver, is going to be some kind of foe, the last foe he faces. It doesn't seem like he's that important. So he seems like he's probably done. Um, I thought what they were going to do was they were going to okay, so I'll tell you what I like about the episode. It's classic Saul Breaking Bad when like they're doing it like straight, like it's showing you strange things like that seem to be unrelated to the like anything, and then you have to wonder what's going on here, right? So at the
Right.
beginning they show the old lady in this in the whatever the scooter or whatever she drives in, like you're like, well, why were they focusing on this old lady? And then she gets stuck, and then you see Jimmy. He's looking for like, well, what does this have to do with it? Like what is going on here? And then he's seducing her, which is really funny. And then he's bringing Cinnabon to this fat guy who just wants to talk about college football. That's sort of funny, and you're wondering why he's timing him. And so that's fun. That's like a game. You're figuring out exactly why these things are happening. How do they fit together. So I like that. It's like it's like just a good sort of it's just a classic thing that they always do.
Uh huh.
I was just expecting more at this point, in the show.
Yeah.
It just seemed like this could have been a good episode like this to demonstrate this is who Jimmy is. We know this is who Jimmy is. I guess they're just showing us he's still the same guy, but it's there's not a lot there besides that.
So I think it was not quite them showing us that he's still the same guy. I think it was part character development where they showed him kind of returning to form. He was kind of broken down, like a shell of himself as Gene most of the time we saw him. And there's this scene where he's timing Jeff. He's constructed his like obstacle course, and he's timing
Yeah.
Jeff and yelling instructions. And I thought, the scene directly it looks like Jimmy is training Jeff, but really indirectly it's showing how he's getting himself back into shape too.
Uh-huh.
How he's kind of getting his own mojo back as the old scammer.
You know what I thought I was doing? So, like when he was scamming those, when he was, manipulating those security guards, I thought what it was going to show us. So, okay, so why was he doing all this stuff with this cab driver guy? What's the cab driver's name? Do you remember?
Jeff.
Jeff. Okay, so why is he doing all this stuff with Jeff? I guess they're brothers. I just found that out. Like, I just realized that when they were fixing the car, because the mom comes in, she's like, he's him and his brother. Weren't they brothers? Jeff and the other guy.
Who? Which other guy? The
The other
tall
guy.
guy, the
Yeah,
younger
yeah.
guy
The guy with the dog. Yeah.
with the dog. Oh yeah, there was a dog there. Yeah, I don't remember being told that they were brothers.
I think when they were fixing the car at the end, the mom comes in and it's like, "Oh, you and your brother," or something like that. Or
Could
maybe
be.
when she was talking to Jimmy inside. Well, anyways, um, I thought that he was doing this with Jeff. I thought what they were going to show us was that this was a character development in a like dark direction. So, like the way the show told, the way the show told it. Let me tell you first what I thought, then I'll say how the show told it. So I thought they were going to be like, he's just like stealing from the mall just because this is who he is. Like he has no reason at all in the world to do this. It's very risky. He got away by the skin of his teeth out of Albuquerque, and he's robbing the Armani store just because that's sort of what he does. That's who he is. It's like not even pretending to make sense anymore, right? It's not even pretending for purpose. But it turns out there was a purpose because he wanted to get this guy to commit a crime, and then be like, oh, this guy is. And then it has an instrumental purpose, so it's not like him just doing things for crazy reasons. Now I know I see what the face you're making, so I think what you're gonna say is like, no, it's actually there's a synthesis here in that he has a plausible story to tell himself, but this is not the simplest or easiest way to do what he wanted to do. He knows people. He could threaten this guy. He can, make this guy's life hard. But he decided to create an obstacle course for him. Get a fake like truck company, go in, like put him in there. Build up this relationship with these security guards for months and months, I guess, or weeks or whatever. And then have this complicated thing, and in the end, he doesn't even like does he even get the money from Jeff? Or it doesn't seem like that. He just has it, he just has this he just has this
Yeah, yeah.
hanging over the guy. And
He doesn't ask for any money. No.
yeah, and so he's doing. So I guess I don't know. What do you think? Do you think the lesson was like this actually was just like an instrumental thing, or it's more like this is just him doing it because this is fun and this is the funnest way to do what he wanted to do.
So I think part of it was, at first he was like, "Oh, this guy's on to me. I've got to call the vacuum cleaner guy and relocate again." And then basically he's like, you see him thinking, "No, I can handle it on my own. Jimmy would have been able to handle it. Saul would have been able to handle it. I just need to rediscover my old mojo." And I
Mhm.
think that's what this arc was basically about, in large part. Him rediscovering his mojo, and not being broken down anymore. And the thing that kind of bothers me, I will say, I did not see where the plot was going with him doing the mutually assured destruction thing with legal charges. Uh,
Mhm.
and once I did see that, at first I thought it was kind of clever. But then when I thought about it for just a second, I was like, wait a second, this plot won't actually work. Because, like, think about the feds. Think if you're any kind of prosecutor.
Mhm.
A shoplifter comes to you and says, I can give you Saul Goodman
Yeah, but
if you
he's
can
dumb.
replicate the
But
shoplifting.
this cab driver's no genius. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't know about the law.
Right. So I know that it's a bluff. That's what it is. It's a total bluff, this mutually assured destruction thing. And
Mhm.
I believe that even in the universe of the show, Saul knows that it's a bluff. Uh, and let me
No, but
tell you,
he just has to prevent him from going to the feds. If the feds come to him, it's a different story. But why would he go to the feds and say, "I can give you Saul Goodman"? Even if he gets a lighter sentence, it's better than it's better just not to be in trouble.
well, for one, there's probably a reward out on him. I mean,
Yeah,
I
maybe.
think we're
Yeah.
given the impression that he's pretty wanted by
Mhm.
maybe the FBI.
Yeah.
And so here's the other thing. Here's actually kind of
I
my
don't
my
think the
bigger
reward will be big enough to get a criminal charge. But okay, go ahead.
here's my kind of bigger picture thing about why I think that this storyline might not be tied off.
Mhm.
Uh, at first in the episode, when we see Jeff introduced, he's driving his cab, and we see there's this ornament dangling from his rear view mirror, and it says Albuquerque Isotopes. And
Mhm.
I noticed how long the camera lingered on that, and I looked it up. I was like, "Is this a company or something? Is
Well,
the isotope?"
did you watch The
It's a
Simpsons?
description.
The Simpsons. Oh, they had the Springfield isotopes because they had nuclear. Okay, they had a nuclear power plant. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So what it means is that he was a fan of. I think it's a minor league baseball team in
Uh-huh.
Albuquerque. But at least in that moment, they were reminding us that Jeff came from Albuquerque. And then the thing that really got on my radar was toward the end of this episode, when Jeff's mom, Marion, she incidentally says something to Gene about how Jeff fell in with a bad crowd back in Albuquerque. And that is the key that makes me think that may become relevant. That
Wait,
this
why? The point is The point is he's from Albuquerque. He's from Albuquerque, and that's important because he knew who Jimmy was in the mall.
Right, sure. I mean, that's one reason it's
It's not like
relevant.
it's
But
introducing it. It's not like they're introducing the Albuquerque thing. So no, this was a flashback scene. This cab thing was just a flashback. This was a not a fast forward scene, whatever it was, a future scene. This was like one of the I guess that's the point. Like he saw him in the cab. He's from Albuquerque. They're telling us that, and then he comes back to the mall and then sees him. I didn't realize the cab driver and Jeff later, Jeff in the mall, were the same guy, but that's apparently it. But so it makes sense. It doesn't need to connect to anything else. Why would it? Why would it?
the line that I'm focusing on is really the one his mom said, where she just kind of incidentally mentions that Jeff fell in with a bad crowd in Albuquerque. And I know this is not a lot. It could be nothing. It could go nowhere. But it
It's probably,
seems like
I think that they were just saying they were just saying like that was just the point of that conversation. I think was like, oh, you're a good influence on him. Like I think that's just making Jimmy feel bad. He's good at like manipulating people and like he's just using people and like he's so good. He like manipulates Jeff and then he gets his mom to think like he's the good influence this whole time. So what do you think? So what do you think? I'll let you finish your thought on it.
so look, this is this is just speculation, all right? This is just an idea about where they could be going if they wanted to pick that up. Uh,
Uh-huh.
how some of these pieces could fit together. It could be. So
Uh-huh.
it seems this bad crowd Jeff was with in Albuquerque. It seemed that they were involved in some kind of criminal activity, and and that's part of why Gene was able to figure out that Jeff wanted in on the game of being a criminal. And so one thing that seems plausible is that without Gene's help, Jeff will try to continue being a criminal, and he'll probably do a poor job of it. Maybe he'll get caught, maybe not.
Mm,
Maybe somehow he'll reconnect with this criminal crowd he apparently ran with back in Albuquerque. But I think either on his own or with the old gang from Albuquerque, I think Jeff will probably keep doing crime. He's not going
mm,
to be good at it. At
mm,
some point, he's going to be caught, and there's
mm.
a decent chance he tries to feed them Saul Goodman.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, that's I mean that's plausible. That's plausible enough. Well, when he said, you wanted in the game, I thought that was surprising. And the way I interpreted it at the time was it was basically like that's not really what maybe like you say, oh, he sensed it in Jeff. I was thinking at the time, like, no, that's not really what's going on. He's just like handling this in the Jimmy way. Um, I think there could have been another explanation why he didn't go to the cops. He had no reason. Maybe he's just like, oh man, I love you. He just, why he's not going to the cops. I don't know. But like the interpretation that because you want in on the game, I don't know if that was a natural interpretation. It was just like this is Jimmy's way of like doing this mutually assured destruction thing, or just getting him to, for the enjoyment of it, getting him to rob the store. Um, I don't think it's yeah, that was my impression. This was like this Jeff guy is like not very bright and not very self-aware, and Jimmy could just like manipulate him. Like he made Jeff believe that that's what he wanted, like to be in the game. That's the way I saw it.
Well,
Um,
I don't agree with that interpretation. Like, here's where I'm with you. I like before Gene said, "I know what you want. I know why you haven't turned me in. It's because
mm,
you want in on the game." I
mm,
had not entertained that theory myself before he said it. Now, you think that basically Gene planted that idea in his
yeah,
mind.
mm,
You know, I didn't really get that impression. I thought in the universe of the show, it's trying to say that Gene is right about that, that he thought about that and he reasoned his way through it. And he was like, most people would have turned me in. There's a reward on my head. Logically, what reason would somebody have for not pursuing that reward? And then he figured this out. Like, oh, the
that
guy kind of idolizes me. He idolizes me because I was a very successful criminal.
mm. Yeah, yeah, maybe. Um, and then, but like, did Jeff really want in the game? He was ready to quit. He was ready to quit during that obstacle course, right? He didn't seem that enthusiastic about the plot. The other thing is Jimmy had to keep sort of prodding him, right, to keep going along with it. So he didn't exactly seem like the most enthusiastic participant in all this.
Yeah, well, he was kind of half-hearted. So I think that he did kind of idly want to be in on the game, and part of it was related to this stuff about him being kind of a middle-aged cab driver who hadn't succeeded at much, and and so I think Jimmy kind of picked up on that instinct and like it inflamed it.
Yeah. I mean, it could be Jimmy just sort of sees that like everybody's who's like not that successful or is sort of wants to be yeah. I think you could tell from that guy the way that guy was acting with Jimmy Benham. He didn't act like a guy who he yeah, you're right. He sort of idolized Jimmy as Saul. Saul was known as a fugitive at that point. And he was sort of yeah, it was an emotional thing. You could tell, like, it wasn't just about money or something. He had some emotional reason for it to be, there's some kind of attachment to Jimmy, which, yeah, I guess that game thing uh, makes sense. So you think that mutually? So what do you think Jimmy was? What do you think Jimmy was doing? Because you think the mutually assured destruction doesn't make sense. I don't know if you told me your theory of how this what was going on here.
Well, I mean, I think it's basically a bluff. I think Saul knows he's bluffing, and he's just thinking this guy's an idiot. He's not going to question my legal judgment that I've got a valid threat of mutually assured destruction here.
But he's an idiot. There was a simpler way. I mean, there must be a simpler way to manipulate him. I mean, that's So he could have told him, "You did not turn me in within 24 hours. Therefore, you are probably going to get life in prison if you turn me in now." I mean, it seems like he's very dumb. It seems like he could have come up with something, elaborate.
No, I mean,
Unless
if he was going to pursue this way of doing things, then I guess it makes sense to try to get this guy. I mean, these are felonies. These are the amount of stuff he was stolen was calculated to be multiple felonies, and the way he got the truck from across state lines and all that felonies. And so Saul had to build it up to be able to say, you get 10 years for this, you get 10 years for that. You're facing 40 years in prison if you turn me in. And as a matter of fact, as a matter of legal fact, no, the prosecutor is going to excuse some felonious shoplifting if they can get one of the FBI's most wanted. But
yeah,
it is, I guess, a valid bluff to a guy who knows nothing.
yeah. I mean, okay. So so you don't buy my interpret. Do you buy my interpretation of the series that Jimmy is always, and Kim too, to a certain extent when they were together, is always doing things for the thrill and then justifying them as instrumental, even though they are sort of instrumental, but they're sort of also done for the thrill. And there's often, less complicated ways to get what he wants, but he wants the sort of complicated, convoluted thing that makes him feel very, smart and able to manipulate people.
I do think that part of this was for the thrill.
Okay. In
Part
this
of like
situation.
we've seen that he wants to relive the old glory days, and he watches tapes of him being Saul. And so I
Yeah.
think that part of this was about that. I mean, look, a little part was like, hey, I don't need to spend massive amounts of money using the vacuum cleaner guy. He's going to charge double this time. Another
Mhm.
part was, forget the money, I can solve this myself. I can be self-reliant. And a
Mm.
third part was, I want to be Jimmy again. I want to be Saul again. And
Yeah.
Saul or Jimmy could handle this.
Yeah. It's not a long-term solution because he's someone else from Albuquerque will see him in the mall one day, right? I mean, apparently this was a big news story. It doesn't seem like that this seems like this will keep happening.
It could, maybe memories will fade as time
Mm.
goes on. Really, truth is, he should probably be a little farther away than Omaha. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah, Kim was from wasn't Kim from Omaha or Nebraska or something? We talked about this.
yeah, somewhere in Nebraska. I
He
think
could
it
be
was
chasing
might have been
he could
Omaha.
he could be chasing. He could be chasing her. Yeah, what did you think? What do you think about the character, the fat guy with the Cinnabon? Was this guy representative for Middle America, just loving his sugar and sports talk and easily to sort of manipulate and good-hearted? Was this guy supposed to be an avatar for something?
Yeah, I mean, he struck me as a bit of an intentional caricature.
Mm,
Like,
yeah.
oh, fat guy loves his Cinnabon. That's the weakness we can exploit.
Yeah. Uh, I thought, yeah. So, yeah, I really thought that, yeah. So, I mean, okay. Okay. So here we are. How did the episode end? What was the last scene? Do you remember?
Um, well, there's something I wanted to mention anyway that comes at the end of it.
Uh,
So remember back when in the earlier episode when Jeff was first introduced and identified him at the mall. And by the way, you know that was a different actor, right?
it
They
was no,
recast.
no. Why did they do that?
They recasted Jeff's actor because I think I heard that like the old actor was just busy. He was doing something else.
And they look alike. I mean, it's not.
I think that the original one was kind of more sinister.
Mm,
The new one is kind of dopey.
okay.
But the thing that really struck me, the symmetry, is that back at the mall, uh, Jeff is the one that has all the power, and he forces Gene to say "Better Call Saul."
Yeah.
You know, and there's this whole thing about how he's going to force him to say those words. And I thought they were doing kind of a callback to that at the end of this episode, where Gene is forcing Jeff to say the words "We're done."
Mm.
It was to show that the power has changed hands now.
Yeah, 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 I get that. That makes sense. And this was part of the. He couldn't let himself be beat by this guy, right? I think he had like contempt for this guy, and he had to like beat him, and he had to beat him badly. And it wasn't like he ended up getting the guy. I mean, it's like a this is sort of like Jimmy's good side. Like he ends up getting the guy like a lot of money, right? He's gonna make. I was trying to calculate like these things are like he's looking at the price tags are $1,000, $2,000 each. He seems to have dozens and dozens of these. Pieces of clothing. They Air Jordans. I mean, they have Air Jordans in the. What kind of store was this? This was like they had Armani suits and Air Jordans. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, it was a department store. And by the way, there's this little moment that struck me in that scene, where at the beginning Jeff is saying to the other guy, like, "Hey, these Armani suits, we can probably sell these for $500." And
Uh,
at that exact moment, Gene makes like some kind of face, like some kind of disgusted face,
yeah,
and I don't know quite what to make of that. Maybe that was meant to imply like you should be able to any competent criminal should be able to
yeah,
get more than $500 for those, something like
yeah,
that.
yeah. I think that's right. In the okay, so yeah, so yeah, I agree with all that. What was the I'm just trying to think back what the last scene was. How did it end? Uh, do you remember?
So does it end with him just still at Marion's house,
Yes.
talking to her? They go into her house. Was that the end of it?
Yeah, they
No, no,
go
no,
to
no, no. I remember.
okay.
The end is the scene like a day or two later where Jimmy is visiting the same department store, visiting the
Oh,
scene of the
yes.
crime.
Oh, and he puts on the that gets the funky clothes. Yeah, so
Yeah, yeah.
they
He looks at like the Saul Goodman style colorful suit, and you know he's holding it up, and you can see him imagining himself as
he
Saul
wants to
again.
be Saul again. He wants to buy that suit, and he wants to yeah.
And
I
then
thought it
he
was
hangs
like
it
what
up.
this was. I thought he was becoming trans. Like you can't really tell with the black and white. I thought like why is he holding up this dress? But no, yeah, this man's clothes. What do you think about the black and white decision? By the way,
It was a bit artsy. I can respect that as long as they don't keep it black and white for too long.
is
I do
black and
not want to see a black and white show the rest of the way.
yeah. Yeah. So this is what's the representation? It's like it's grim, it's gloomy because he's Gene, he's not himself, and now he's becoming Saul again. Um, is that the thing? And then we'll go back to color. It does show a preview. If you like, again, if you watch the end of the show, you get past the last commercial, you fast forward. The preview is black and white.
Nah.
Um, it's not much of a preview. It's like it's just a but it was accurate. The black and white, the black and white for this episode, the preview for this episode had been black and white. So the next episode, the preview now is black and white. So that implies um, that it'll still be black and white. And so maybe it's like the fact that he's always like he doesn't seem. Yeah, I guess what's odd about he doesn't like if he's he's a fugitive, and so like you think he'd avoid this crime stuff, right? He'd avoid like doing this stuff, but he does not seem all that nervous. And like even though when he gets out of the security guard's office, and he's having heart palpitations or whatever. Um, it doesn't feel like he's that nervous. It just doesn't feel. It feels like he's too relaxed and good at this scheming and like, and yeah, I don't buy it. So like maybe that is just him returning to himself. Like maybe that was like, he's more comfortable committing crime and being sort of an active agent in the world than he is relaxing, putting his head down, taking a few risks, and just working at the Cinnabon, right?
Yeah, I mean that's so far that's what I think this arc was about. This little arc was about Gene uh, becoming his old self, becoming Jimmy and Saul again.
Yeah, and one thing this does answer, so we didn't know when the show would go to. It could have gone to like the middle of Breaking Bad or something, but no, it goes directly to the end. You said Walt and the other guy, Jesse, are going to be like, I don't know how Walt gets there now because Walt is dead.
Yeah,
It must zigzag back and from the must go back somehow to
yeah,
get Walt. Jesse, you could get you could get find him in Alaska or something, but even that seems unlikely. Seems unlikely he'd get to Alaska.
yeah.
Um,
It's
okay, so
possible
yeah,
it's possible that that was all some like grand misinformation from
mhm.
the showmakers.
I don't think
I doubt it. I'd suspect that we probably are going to go back to the Breaking Bad era for at least a while.
for at least a while. Okay, so there, I mean, there has to be some kind of conclusion here. I mean, there's just nothing. I mean, there's just. I hope we. What I hope doesn't. I hope we don't get just another Gene episode where it's just like he finds some other loser who recognizes. Or it's like he has some adventure at the mall, and it's just
Right.
like a self-contained episode, and nothing happens again. I would be very disappointed if we got that.
Yeah, I don't think we will. I think this was kind of their artsy. I don't want to call it filler. I mean, this is a character focused episode that was
Mhm.
focused on accomplishing something with Gene's character, an important thing with his character, turning him into Jimmy and Saul again, so that he can be his old self for whatever's coming next. Uh, but I do not believe that they could get away with doing this again, or that they will do it again.
I
I think
hope.
that a story is like a meal. You got to have different courses
Mm,
that work together. And I think this was kind of a palate cleanser kind of episode to prepare
mm.
us for some to prepare us after some intense stuff has happened and before some more intense stuff is going to happen.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I am. Yeah, I guess I'm maybe gluttonous. Maybe I don't want the palate cleaner. Maybe I just want more. I've just been spoiled by the last few episodes. Um, yeah, I mean, it's a very strange decision for Gene to be Saul to be the only character. Like, oh, I mean, one thing that makes the series great is like so many intriguing characters, right? You have Mike and you have Kim and you have Gus and you have Nacho and you're Lalo and you're jumping around between all of them. All those people are gone or dead. All you have here is Jimmy plus all these people who we've really never seen before, or only seen very small doses. Who aren't none of them are that compelling. They're just they just seem like like filler characters. Like they don't seem that important. Maybe Jeff will be somehow, but he's not he doesn't seem like a compelling or interesting guy. And so yeah, it's a very interesting decision to have really to have be such a character heavy show full of such interesting and sort of complex characters, and then just do a show that's literally just Jimmy, and we're just sitting there and we have no idea. We still have. I mean, we this is a curious thing. We have no idea. We're just as clueless as we were last week about where this is going.
Almost, almost. Like
Almost,
I agree with you. We're largely in the same position we were in last week. There still are 3 episodes left, and
uh,
not much to do with them. Not much that requires being done with them. Now,
yes.
like I
It
said,
might all be just artsy fartsy nonsense. That would be funny. That would be funny if that's how it ended.
I do suspect that there's kind of a trick being played on us here, where
Uh,
we think that this episode completely tied off the Jeff Gene storyline, but actually, I think that in fact it dangled just a couple little
I
crumbs
think
of loose
this
ends.
sounds like what you were saying about Cliff. This sounds like you're looking for something, to continue, which is pretty much finished. I wouldn't have wanted Cliff to be that. I don't want Jeff to be that important either. I want something. I want something. I don't think that this like
I will just bet that we haven't seen the last of Jeff or his mom.
Okay. Like, yeah, so I mean, I guess who else could come back to? I guess the other thing he could do, it could become a love story. He could just chase Kim. He could just be trying to find Kim. That's the odd that that's the character who's still alive, who's still out there. Um, nobody else is even alive. I mean, everyone is dead. I mean, everyone is dead except him. So the only if any character, like if you're gonna have any other characters who were part of the show, it's got to be Kim. There's nothing else. And so
Oh
maybe
yeah,
there's a
oh yeah. I
dynamic.
mean, the next 3 episodes. I don't know if we'll see her in the next one. Maybe at the end of it. I don't know, but I think we're going to see Kim come back into the story pretty soon.
Mm.
She has to.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's interesting. The Breaking Bad. I mean, I just saw recently the Breaking Bad series was only 2 years. So I guess the age thing is not as big of a deal as we might have thought. That was like 6, 7 seasons, but it was like it was 2 years or 5 seasons. I don't know what it was, but it was only 2 years. So so he hasn't seen Kim, and it hasn't been that long since he's seen Kim. I guess, right? It's been maybe 3 years or so. He was, she left him. Breaking Bad happened. I think this is not that far after Breaking Bad, so maybe it's like 3 years uh, that they haven't seen each other.
I think maybe 4 years or so, 4 or 5.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah. So mm, I don't know. Do we have like okay? So he's still a fugitive. Okay, that's sort of an interesting thing. It could be Cliff or something. I mean, it could be somebody pointed out in the comments, I think, to one of our discussions that they did excavate the Gus lab, and they apparently didn't find any other bodies. So maybe they do at some point. Um,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and some people said, and they were right about this. I did say at the time, my memory of what happened with the lab was hazy, and it was very hazy. Uh, so yeah, I mean, they're buried under concrete, and there's no real reason for people to dig through it and find them unless
mm,
somebody buys that property and tries to build something new there. Basically,
yeah,
that's the occasion that might logically prompt somebody to discover those bodies.
yeah, I right. So yeah, so that so there's that, and then so I guess it's okay, but like what I mean, I'm trying to rack my brain. Like, what could they be doing? That's why I'm afraid of these last episodes. Like, they just gave us these characters. Maybe they're just going to give us a bunch of avid. Like you say that they won't do this, but I literally don't know what else they would do. Here, like, there's four. What are they going to do with 4 episodes? Okay, 25% of that they used one episode just to give us this fat guy who loves Cinnabon, and Jeff the cab driver, and his mom. Maybe he goes around America, or like he does something, and there's just like it's a rotating cast of these characters. Maybe like I don't know. I sort of like when they do the artsy stuff. Like I could change my mind and maybe like this. I don't know. Like I sort of want the Breaking Bad ending where it's just like like piles of bodies and just like and that's what this was like until the end. This was like this is what has happened here. Just like accelerated rate of killing people off. Right. That's how Breaking Bad ended. That's how Saul was until this last episode. Um, and now there's no one left to kill. And we can't get that much fun because there's nobody else left alive that we even care about. So I'm starting to think maybe they're going with this. They're going to do some very artsy stuff for 3 episodes, and then he dies in a nursing home or something. Something very banal and clever. I don't know.
You're being too grim. These guys have proven themselves great writers many times in the past. I'm going to trust that this is part of a bigger plan, and they're not just going to feed us some artsy black and white episodic, the Gene Show stuff for the next 3 episodes.
I
This is
mean,
going somewhere still.
could it be good?
This was just a character driven palate cleanser to prepare us for some more intense stuff. That's what I believe.
Could they do the artsy stuff? Could they do it well? I mean, is that I'm not discounting that possibility completely. That it could actually be interesting. This one wasn't that interesting, but it doesn't mean that it's not possible to do this well. I thought like I thought Jeff was not interesting. I thought the fat American guy. I thought that was like interesting. This sort of I don't know, almost veiled social commentary, but not really. I mean, you could have that, right?
Hmm. I mean, yeah, they could do something more with that. I don't know whether we're going to see any more of the security guards or not.
No, I don't think we'll see. I don't think we'll see them specifically, but I mean, we'll see other sports fans or other, sort of, representatives of, different parts of American culture.
Maybe, maybe. And this just goes back to the old theme of the show. Once in a while, shows us some good-hearted, genuine people, and it usually shows us Jimmy taking
Yeah,
advantage of them.
yeah, and that's fine. Yeah, and I sort of like that. I mean, yes, it could. So I guess maybe. Yeah, and so I mean, the other thing we talked about. So you go back to the Breaking Bad universe, is there anybody from the Breaking Bad universe who could? So here's what I think: they go back, they show some stuff in the Breaking Bad, and somebody who you didn't think was important, or something like becomes important, like somebody had some role in something, and then like that person, shows up some here at the end. Are there any like compelling characters that are left from Breaking Bad even?
From Breaking Bad, not Better Call Saul.
Well, I mean, because I don't know if there's any from Better Call. Like, well, who's left from Better Call Saul? Like, Rich and Cliff and your hero, the manager at Pollo Loco. There's not a lot to do with all those
Yeah,
guys.
yeah. I'd prefer the Lyle show to the Gene show,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah,
But
yeah. Lyle is not gonna. Yeah, Lyle will not make an appearance. We could still have Gus. Remember last time you said this is not the end of Gus. So we could have.
oh,
Uh,
last time I had the impression that that probably was the last
Oh,
time we would see
that was
Gus.
a good buy. Okay, yeah, it could be. I mean, there's still so much his origin story. We still do, he's still a mystery. He's still a bit of a mystery. I talked to America Andreessen. He said, he could have been in, could have been some son of a Nazi and a black woman in Argentina, and he was talking about his like he sort of has like an ability to he has like good intelligence ability, like he's able to like he's good at security and figuring out where people are and operational security. So he could have been in the and there was that episode of Breaking Bad where Hank and Hank's partner Gomi, I think he calls him, where they say they can't find his records. So there's something like he could have been doing something with the government or something. Oh, and Andreessen points this out too. I don't know if you remember this, but when they kill Gus's boyfriend Max, he says that they say something like Don Eladio, I think, says like we don't kill you because we know who you are or something
Yep,
like that. That
they
did
do say
happen.
that.
Okay. So yeah, there's something, we know sort of everything about Jimmy. We know everything about, like a lot of these characters. We still don't know a lot about Kim's past. We have a general outline, but still, Gus, there's a lot. There's a lot we don't know. So it could be something to work with there. The Yeah, but the Breaking Bad did not leave us. So okay, maybe I don't know, like Walt's kids, right? Maybe he
Well,
finds
yeah,
them. Yeah, he finds
Skylar's
them.
still around. Walt's kids are around. Marie's around. Kaylee, her mom,
Yeah,
they're around.
Kelly and her mom. Yes.
Yeah, I have a hard time seeing them becoming relevant to Gene's plot.
Yeah. I mean, Skyler, like maybe there's something with the money and something he goes and finds. He goes and there could be some reason. He has an excuse to see Skyler and Walt Jr. You're right, Kaylee and well, Mike. Did Mike have like Mike and Kaylee, are they taken care of when are Kaylee and her mom taken care of when Mike die? Um,
So I'm not completely sure. I know Mike thought he left some money for them to access. Now, in a comment on one of these, somebody pointed out correctly uh, that Walt did make sure there was some money left for his family because he threatened Gretchen and Elliot
yeah,
and
yeah.
told them to basically funnel money to his family through some kind of charity or something. And
How was
so
what leverage did he? How did he threaten them?
remember, he had the supposed snipers. He hired a Badger and Skinny Pete to pretend to be like the best assassins in the West, and they
Oh,
trained
I have
their.
no recollection of this at all. I've got to see this. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. He goes to Gretchen and Elliot's house and he threatens them, and Elliot at one point he pulls this kitchen knife on Walt, and Walt just kind of says like, Elliot, if you're gonna go that way, you're gonna need a bigger knife. And then like the laser sights appear on them, two laser sights, and Walt's like, I've hired the best assassins in the West, and they will kill you dead if you don't funnel this money to my family, basically. And then we see that it's Badger and Skinny Pete.
Mm, that's fun. That is funny. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So okay. Yeah. I'm lost. You seem to have too much faith in me. I mean, you seem to have you I mean, I have faith in these guys too. I do, but there's something I'm not seeing. There's something we're not seeing. There's something they have. You have to believe there's something they have that we don't, because I'm wrecking my brain. I'm trying to think, what are we gonna do in these 3 episodes? And I was
If they are great writers, if they're great writers, and I believe they are,
uh,
they will have a suspenseful ending in the last 2 or 3 episodes, one that ties together old things from the existing plot instead of entirely creating new things. And the problem we've been running into is that we don't see many loose ends or
yeah,
characters to be tied up or to become new problems. And I've speculated, I've racked my brain, I've identified a few different threads they could pull on, but I don't know. I don't know what they'll do. I just
okay.
have faith. I have faith they'll do something good.
So you have Cliff, you have Jeff. Have you thought of any others?
Okay, so the one thing we know almost for sure is that Kim is going to come back into Jean's storyline. I'd say, like, what else can they do? They have to do
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
somehow. Uh, and so that's one loose end. Um, and I still think that I need a payoff of some kind to Chekhov's vacuum cleaner card, but we don't need to talk about the business card. Uh, so Kim, Cliff, potentially the bodies underneath the lab, but I mean, they could only realistically find those if somebody bought the property, demolished it, and tried to construct something new there,
Uh-huh.
uh, which probably would happen eventually. And then, I think there's this loose end. I believe that there's a potential loose end where, at the end of the episode, Jeff's mom talks about how he ran with a bad crowd, criminal crowd in Albuquerque, and kind of maybe partly independently of that, I think that there's a loose end where Gene's mutually assured destruction legal threat to Jeff is actually not a good one. It's actually a bluff. And right now, it's a bluff that Jeff believes, but I think it's very plausible that Jeff will continue to try to do crime without the guidance of Gene, and he'll mess it up and he'll get caught.
Mhm. And so is the only thing we're looking for, we're finding out, we're there, if that's, let's say that was the plot, then the only thing that's suspense is like, does Gene get arrested, or not? And is that enough to, build 3 episodes? Yeah, maybe. Like, that is exciting to sort of see how he ends up. If he gets away with it, was he going to work at Cinnabon forever? It doesn't seem like going to jail forever or working at Cinnabon forever in fear is that, like, the delta there. It does not seem like exciting enough to, like, keep my attention. Like, this seems pretty miserable anyway.
Yeah.
Goes to jail. It's not the it's bad, obviously, to worse. But he's so broken and sad at this point. Yeah, I think there's something here with the putting on the suit. He could be he could have a whole new hustle. Yeah, I don't know about these loose. You're saying it has to tie in some loose ends. I just think these are very thin uh, threads that don't. You could read stuff into it. Oh, the vacuum cleaner guy, like, oh, maybe Jeff does this, maybe Cliff, or maybe not. I mean, there's not like there. It's not a like a must that the good writers have to wrap up these threads, because there's a fine explanation. Like, Cliff just bought the story, and Jeff is just he buys the bluff. And maybe he wasn't inclined to turn in Jimmy anyway. So, like, there's nothing crying out here. To be solved in any of that stuff. So I would actually, maybe, if I had to guess, I would think it's going to go the opposite. I think we're going to get a new plot line. I think we're going to get, like, he's going to put on the purple suit. I don't know, something will happen. Kim will be involved. If it was one episode, okay, like, maybe, but there's three episodes, and none of those things sound that compelling. Like, I don't care about Cliff. Like, I don't even care about Jimmy going to jail all that much at this point. I mean, so, like, all of that would, like, tie to that, right?
Mhm.
And so I think there needs to be, I think there needs to be something else.
Well, I we've said it before. There's just not that much that needs to be tied off. All we can agree on with certainty is that Kim's going to come back in.
That is our agree. Yeah, that is our point of agreement. I think that you still think, though, even if there's not a lot that needs to be, like, that's going to sort of be the thing where I am saying that there's going to be like he's gonna start a new career or something. There's gonna be some kind of new, you know, some kind of new plot that's gonna develop, and you're gonna have an arc, and it's gonna end somehow. And it's
I
risky and
don't
it's hard, but
I don't think we're going to have an artsy mini spin-off to end this series.
mhm.
You consider that more of a live possibility than I
I
do.
do. I do. I think they're becoming more bold in their love of artsiness and experimentation. Like I think the wine scene with Gus that people didn't like, although I like that was the right level of artsiness for me. I think that might have been a hint. That it might have been a harbinger of what we're going to see, and then we get this, which is like sort of the whole thing becomes artsy, and then who knows the last year. Look, I would trust them to. I would be less disappointed in that than it's just like there's a Jeff spin, like a Jeff, or that's not exciting. That's not exciting to me. He's just in this world and he's trying not to get arrested, and then I don't know, like that. It's trying to do something artsy, but like with a point, with like an ending or like some kind of conclusion, not just like this, which really doesn't go anywhere. It's just establishing Gene, but it gets somewhere. It's like I'll tolerate a lot of artsy stuff for a good payoff. Um, but I don't think it's going to be like a normal story. I think actually that's like two like directions that are like completely. I think it's probably one of the most like, these are like sort of two opposite ends of like the spectrum. It's like a new thing with a lot of action, a lot of stuff happening, artsy stuff with nothing happening, and like what you see between is like something in the middle. Just like it's like a normal story where you're tying up the old stuff and you're developing all the old stuff. And I just think that's probably the least likely outcome.
And here's what you seem to think. Not only do you think that we're kind of starting to spin off the Gene Show, you
Uh,
think that the Gene Show is episodic. You think that the Jeff Gene storyline is an episodic part of the new Gene Show that's done and tied off, and that the Gene Show spinoff will continue
Well,
to do that.
The Gene show can be connected. Like you could drop Jeff, and you can have Gene. Like you still have 3 episodes, so you could have plenty of development there. I don't think every episode has to be standalone. Everything wrapped in a nice bow, which was sort of what this was, except for the thing you highlight. But no, it doesn't. Just because I don't think Jeff will necessarily be that important, it doesn't mean that the last 3 episodes won't be connected or won't be developed. Won't
Yeah, right.
pull off each
So
other.
so in the Gene Show spinoff, it could be that the last 3 episodes form a unit. But you do think that if we're doing a spin-off with the Gene Show to end the series, you do think that it began with an episodic storyline about Jeff that's now been tied off.
Yeah, because that tied up a lot of stuff. That tied up all those flashbacks, right? And so you had the guy, the cab driver, the guy seeing him. You had all this stuff, and it takes like okay, Jeff is there. He recognized him. That's the danger for Gene getting caught. He took care of it. Now we can develop the rest of the Gene show. This Jeff guy doesn't need to linger. I think he served his purpose, and I think this episode served its purpose potentially to set the scene for the real Gene show, which is going to be in the last 3 episodes.
Well, we'll see. But what this reminds me of is that it's kind of well known that in this universe for both shows, the theme is that actions have consequences. And so it would be very in keeping with the show for them to show that this scam, this shoplifting scam, isn't tied off, and that it will continue to have consequences.
Yeah, were there ever any scams that didn't I mean, that didn't have consequences? So I don't know. Thinking back when Kim scammed, what is it, Plano, Texas, one of those, and she got that thing built uh, Mesa Verde. Um, I think yeah, I don't know if every scam or every scheme has had consequences. Let me think back. Maybe, yeah, maybe it has. Maybe it has because the Mesa Verde thing. Um, did that directly lead to the guy who wouldn't get off his property? Um, we remember this guy that she wanted, this old man who did that direct, and that guy wouldn't getting off not getting off his property, uh, led to the blow up with Kevin, where he made that video of the section. So I guess you're right. if I could go back and I could, yeah, if I'm right that and you're right, you know that every one of these previous schemes or plot had a and it's sort of, before I rewatch it, it was hard to sort of remember all the connections because they're, it's like, but nothing is, you're right, nothing is sort of just lingering. It's like every one of these schemes, they seem like they get away with it. They do get away with it, but there is always a consequence.
Yeah.
It is. So like, yeah. So
And
uh
let me add this minor detail that I wanted to mention at some point in this
yeah.
podcast. Uh, just in their way that they like to show how events are connected, there's this subtle little thing in this episode. At the kind of the midpoint, the department store manager points towards some scuff marks on the floor, and she says, "Oh, make sure this gets polished."
Uh-huh.
And then later in the episode, when Jeff is running down and he slips on that part. It's
Right, right.
been polished, and that's why he slips. It's little details like that. Like they pride themselves on making everything connected, making everything have consequences.
Yeah.
And I think that they'll continue to think that way.
Yeah, so I thought that that whatever that thing that was on the floor, I thought that was something somehow related to the Jimmy's plot, but apparently it wasn't. It just happened to be there, and then they polished the floor. Right? Jimmy didn't put it there
Oh yeah.
for any
I mean,
reason. It was
it
just,
interfered with the plot. They polish it, and then
yeah,
Jeff
yeah,
slips on it.
right. That's what I realized. Uh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That all makes sense. It was funny. Like, when I didn't know what he was doing when he was like, the guy slipped, and then Jimmy's talking to the fat security guard, and he's like, I thought he was like, I thought that Jeff was probably like dead or something. I mean, Jimmy was apparently distracting him long enough for him to like recover consciousness, which seems, risky. I don't know if you could estimate like how long it takes somebody to, after bumping their head, to get up, but I guess, you try it. I thought he was like, I thought he was assuming he was going to get caught at that point and then be like, "Look, I'm this guy." It tells the fat security guard everything, and then like somehow like the fat security guard helps him clean up. Like the guy's dead, and the fat security guard like helps him like take out the body or something. I thought that's where we were going with that. But apparently that's not where it went.
Yeah, and in part it was an excuse for them to replay this old trick where the only times when Jimmy really bears his soul are when it's part of some scheme. And so he talks about his dead brother and his dead parents, dead dad at least, and you know some of the emotions about his dead brother are real. But Jimmy might not even fully understand that his sadness is real because he's just trying to use it as part of a scam.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Okay, well, I mean, I guess we've got some possibilities here, and it's gonna be, this is still, it's still exciting. I'm still bought in, and I no matter what they do, I'm excited to see how it turns out. So, yeah. Any final thoughts before we let the people go?
I'm basically kind of suspending judgment on this episode. Uh, how good I think this episode was depends on what comes next and whether they do somehow uh, make it more than just a kind of episodic filler arc. I
Hmm.
mean, I understand the character angle they're driving at, that it's Gene becoming his old self again to a certain degree, but I need to see more than that to think that this episode belonged here. And so I'm
Hmm.
withholding judgment for now.
Okay, yeah, and I'm with you. I think I have to, just because we have no idea where it's going. So, what the next episodes will show us. We'll judge, of course, how we see this one. I'm gonna be, yeah. Okay, so, I think we're gonna have to, for next week. I'll be traveling a bit, so I don't know if we're going to be able to record on our normal time. But I think by the end of the week, we should hopefully have an episode for the third to last episode. So, do we know what the episode's going to be called? By the way, is that
I don't
information?
think so. And I think I've read people saying that they've been unusually tight-lipped about stuff like episode titles and what's going in them. They've been
Okay.
trying to keep it a secret.
Yeah, like, so if you looked at like the day before, if you looked at there is a teaser on YouTube, but that doesn't look official. The Yeah, okay, yeah, it doesn't say that. So like, yeah, Nippy, I knew that like the TV guide like showed it at least on the day of it, but yeah, I look at season 6, episode 11. There's nothing. Okay, they really want to leave us in. I mean, they really want to leave us in suspense. So okay, yes, we are. They mission accomplished. Hopefully, hopefully they
I, I'm
deliver.
gonna I'm gonna sit back and let them tell their story, and I'm gonna trust them that it's gonna be good.
Hmm, okay, well, Chris, I'll talk to you next week.